casual twist of an ordinary spigot, and the everyday miracle of water is ours. A gift to take thoughtfully, but too often taken for granted. Water in which we bathe with its temperature control. Water in which we wash our dishes. And water in which our family's food is carefully prepared. Mother appreciates its countless uses, but it may take the young folks in the family a few years to learn the important part which water plays in their growth and their development. And of course, water is the base for our steaming cups of breakfast coffee. Water makes the desert flourish and creates wealth from barren land. Transformed into electricity for light and heat, water becomes harnessed power for 1 million daily uses. And when the rains come, the earth is made moist and productive, and both the sower and the seed are grateful. In ages past, great boulders disturbed by ice were ground and moved and polished, making river sand sharp and glint, and river gravel smooth and rounded. Dredged from glacial beds at the river bottom, these sand and gravel deposits are washed and separated. When mixed with cement and water, they form the concrete ribbons of highway which tie our nation together, and the great bridges that span our busy valleys so that modern traffic may flow with complete freedom. There's freedom in the old swimming hole, too. And there's freedom in a pleasure boat upon a river. Water is our greatest necessity. It must be conserved for livestock and pumped from deep, frosty wells for the cool refreshment of man. Water is so vital to industry that countless gallons are used daily in manufacturing plants. And water's motion begets motion and moves a nation's commerce on liquid highways which are the pulse beat of industrial growth and change. When our country was young, the river was a natural highway for the explorer, the trapper, the trader, and the soldier, because the forests were dense, but the river was free. And then came the steamboats which walked the water proudly, great side-wheelers with Indian-feathered smokestacks. Their wooden hulls were frail, and their lives were short, but they carried our forebears to mid-continent America, and they were expendable to the needs of man. As new generations created new needs, the rivers became the true gauge of our nation's prosperity. Flexible rivers flowing on, and ever elastic to change. Log cabin settlements grew into towns, towns became cities, and simple trade became thriving commerce. Flowing past the centers of industry, the flexible rivers have become an important and necessary part of the cities they serve. And well spoke the sage who said there is not any one town or city which has a navigable river at its door that is poor. Pittsburgh, the city of steel, became the gateway to the West. It supplied lumber for the early steamboats of New Orleans, St. Paul, and Fort Benton. It supplied coal to turn the machinery of sugar mills in Louisiana. It supplied steel to tie the bales of cotton. Its three rivers today float more bulk tonnage than the Suez and Panama canals combined. Pittsburgh, then and now, the gateway to the West. The first handshake after the Civil War was Roebling's Bridge at Cincinnati, linking the North and the South. Mingled with the energy of men and machines, the waters of the mighty Ohio have made Cincinnati a vital transportation artery for river and rail. And Louisville came into being because of a narrow canal around the falls of the Ohio. Called Louisville by its people, it is known as the gateway to the South. the most northern city of the South and the most southern city of the North. Louisville, a tantalizing mixture of business and pleasure. Down the Mississippi at the head of the Delta country is Memphis, gateway to the kingdom of cotton. Memphis, Thebes, Cairo, names reminiscent of water since Egyptian times. 8 modern bridges now span the Mississippi between Cairo and its mouth. This one is at Natchez, a town of many mansions and gardens. And on down the Mississippi is Baton Rouge, an inland seaport, home of immense oil refineries. Here, steamships from the ocean 230 miles away dock regularly in view of Louisiana's magnificent state capitol building. And down to New Orleans the river flows in great sweeping bends. The coast country, they call it, famous for its oil, cotton, sugar, and the decorative iron lace, once cast in Cincinnati workshops and boated down the river. The French section was built from Allegheny River lumber, which traveled 2,000 miles to become part of the old quarter of this thriving city. Those were the days when Jackson Square commanded the riverfront, when the old coffee house stood on the levee, and pirates held empire in the bayous westward from New Orleans toward Houston, fabulous Houston, city of tall buildings, tall people, tall tales. Named for Sam Houston, the first president of Texas and champion of unity. Although 55 miles from the coast, modern dredging miracles have made it a seaport and a riverport. And so Houston is a part of Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is a part of St. Louis, and Pittsburgh is a part of New Orleans. These and many other important cities and towns grew from small settlements, fed and fostered by the rivers, so that they are now of global importance. America's navigable waterways system is the richest in the entire world, thanks to these great rivers which touch and serve a majority of our large markets. They flow through the land where half our people live and where more than half our crops are grown by men like Bill Thornley, who has a farm along the Ohio near Marietta, where his great-grandfather settled over a century ago. Bill knows that rivers make the land rich, and from this land of rivers comes the greater share of farm income. About 3/4 of the nation's total livestock graze on the watershed of the Mississippi River. From this land, too, comes about 68% of the country's total of coal, oil, sulfur, and other mineral products. And the people who live on the farms or in the suburbs, who work in the fields or in the factories, the people who raise their children in this river region pay taxes which account for almost half of the nation's total income. Water that flows long becomes a river, and beneath the great durable bridges that arch the river valleys pass the barges of a great commerce. Several thousand barges handle cargo between such ports as Houston, New Orleans, St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. With a snow-white vessel behind, driven by modern diesel engines coupled to propellers, these power-packed machines are today's answer to the needs of a unified system of waterways. The modern river towboat has given shape and reality to man's economic requirements. The navigation of inland streams is a carefully calculated business, and not the carefree, leisurely life it may seem to be to those of us who watch from the shore. The handling of this massive boat and its even more massive tow requires training and experience. And this applies even to the ordinary crewman, the deckhand, for example. And most of all, it applies to the man in the pilot house whose manipulation of the engine room telegraph transmits his order to the engineer. the engineer executes the order at the control stand, where split-second timing at the fingertip controls assures the prompt response of the boat and its burden. About 3/4 of today's river fleet is equipped with screw propulsion. For the most part, twin propellers, a steady source of power provided by modern equipment. The barges are assembled into a compact flotilla. This barge mass is then tightened securely with wires and ratchets and bound into a single unit. And the towboat, which of course must provide the motive power for this unit, then becomes a component part of the whole. Almost anything that may be shipped by the river in greater quantity and more economically. Whether raw materials, industrial equipment, or consumer goods, there is a barge designed for the job, and the cargoes are handled with expert care and arrive at their destination undamaged and on time. Occasionally, a shipper finds it necessary to change destination orders on a barge which is already in transit upon the river. By radio telephone, the barge line dispatcher, whose charts show the exact location and makeup of each tow, transmits due orders to the towboat captain. Day or night, around the clock, the customer, the office, and the barge are no farther away than their telephones. On a river of barges, there is many a whistled greeting and many an echoing answer. Among the deckhands, there are many traditions which have been handed down by the men who first rode the rivers. The cast steel mooring pins, for example, are still called timberheads, a throwback to the days when wooden posts were used. And a timberhead is a timberhead to the 3rd and 4th generation. This man's father and grandfather ran the river. It's in the blood. But the old order changes, and today the Ohio River is a series of ponds, artificial lakes created by backwater from modern dams. Boats and barges must pass through the locks built at the site of each dam. The locking operation is a regular and routine matter to the many boats that run the rivers today. This particular string of barges is too long to fit the 600-foot length of the lock, and so it will be necessary to split the tow into 2 sections. When the deckhands make the cut, the tow will actually be broken in 2. The initial slice or cut will go through the lock alone, urged on, if necessary, by a barge puller on the lock wall. When everything is in readiness, the pilot gives a signal, and the deckhand picks up a sledge and knocks loose the couplings from around the timberheads. The handling of tows in these locks is supervised by the United States Army Corps of Engineers. When the tow is in 2 cuts, the towboat is part of the 2nd cut and is backed temporarily out of the way. Massive gates swing closed, and the first section of the tow will be raised to the next pool. Wielding a huge dinner gong, which the deckhands call the come ahead bell, Gertrude sounds the 10-minute warning that lunch is about ready. Riverboat kitchens are the envy of many a housewife on shore. Modern, bright, clean, and homelike. Crisp salads are prepared. Sizzling pans full of deep fried potatoes. Huge hams that are baked to perfect mouth-watering goodness. Great sheets of homemade rolls. To be followed, of course, by pies fresh from the oven and luscious cakes spread with icing, thick and frothy. These boats are sometimes referred to as the Great White Fleet. And no wonder. Scrubbing, painting, window washing, and brass polishing go on constantly. For on the towboats which ply our rivers today, Everything is kept spotlessly clean, inside and out. A broadside view of the modern towboat discloses her functional lines. Aft on the main deck lie the engine rooms with their motors hooked to the screws in an almost level line. Forward are the kitchens and service departments, and above, forward of the engines and below the pilot house, are the crew's quarters, ventilated on the rivers by windows instead of portholes. But the lockage must go on, and the hitch must be made. After they have passed through the lock, the two sections of the tow must be brought together gently. The wires and the ratchets the deckhands were undoing a short time ago must be tightened to make the tow once more a compact single unit. All this takes skill and the greatest of dexterity because of the massive weight of the barges. But rivermen are expertly trained in their jobs, and Operation Coupling is accomplished. And Gertrude rings her dinner bell again. This time it's last call for the coming on crew to come and get it. Riverboats operate 24 hours a day, and so a tow must have two crews, one working 6 hours while the other sleeps. This is the coming on crew just out of bed and ready to eat at first table, so they may relieve the other crew which has just completed the locking. Rotated manpower, you might call it. And a democratic system, too, because men and officers eat the same food in the same dining room. While lunching or locking is a thing of the moment on one boat, other boats on other rivers go about their appointed ways, pushing proudly through the waters with the tows and their precious burdens. The rivers may wind and bend, but the boats ply their steady course as the free, flexible rivers bow majestically to the will of man, his economic needs, and his pleasure. Fondly reminiscent of the old river packets which sailed the waters of America over 75 years ago are the passenger boats of today, traveling the same routes and dedicated to the pursuit of pleasure. They add a touch of gaiety to the solemn rivers, modern in every detail and air-conditioned throughout. They offer the lucky vacationist all the comforts and luxuries of an ocean liner. In the spring of each year, speeded happily along by the melting snows and the high waters, these passenger boats carry hundreds of people in gay holiday mood down the rivers to the Mardi Gras, that ancient carnival of parade and pageantry celebrated annually at New Orleans. Mardi Gras, a joyous spectacle of riotous color and uninhibited merriment. Mardi Gras, rich in its centuries-old tradition of festival and frolic. On another part of the river, perhaps a storm is gathering, and the men don their slickers and prepare for bad weather. The skies may be dark and unpredictable, but the pilot and the crew are weather-wise. The rivers may rage and roar beneath the heavy pelting rains, but work aboard goes on as usual, regardless of the weather. The men and the boats and the rivers have their jobs to do. For the locking, spotting, picking up and delivering must go on. And no man cares too much because tomorrow the sun will shine again. And so they swing their barges, hook up again, and it's on to Louisville, Memphis, New Orleans, or Houston. It's all in a day's work. And when the clouds roll away, someone is sure to observe that a red sun at night is a sailor's delight. Many rivermen like the night watch best of all, with its cool relief from the hot sun, the still waters, the moonlit shores, and the fragrant scent of flowers and fields. In the evening, the off-watch crew enjoys themselves in the comfortable lounge. A quiet game of solitaire may pose its own navigation problem, but it's a happy hazard, and a fellow needs some fun at the end of the day. Rivermen find that reading is relaxing, too, and enjoy all kinds of magazines. Checkers is a popular game aboard the boats. The men never tire of it. There's always one fellow who plays the hard way and takes his moves seriously. And there's always the other fellow who patiently waits his move and then sweeps the board clean and has the last hearty laugh. Fun and fellowship, and then to bed. A radio to provide background music for bedtime reading, and clean linen drawn tight and neat in trim bunks is a combination no man can resist after a busy 6-hour shift. Tired minds and tired muscles gradually relax, and thoughts of the river slip further and further away. Throughout the night in the pilot house, it's business as usual. Powerful electric searchlights drill holes in the darkness and bring the complete tow and its great cargo, its wires and ratchets and timberheads into sharp focus. By shipboard loudspeaker, the pilot may talk with the watchman perched on the head of the tow. As the boat passes through the night, along the shore are hundreds of mechanical fireflies, marking the channels for the pilot. But even the giant searchlights must bow to the fog which often walks the valley. Fog, eternal foe of shipping. But now, radar, born of World War II, radar, the miracle of the century, stands watch atop the boat, translating what it sees upon a luminous scope in the pilot house. And so the blank wall of white fog is ignored as the pilot reads the river from a picture and knows that the picture will be accurate. Radar, born of strife and bloodshed, continues its vital role in peacetime safety. And Mark Twain, who loved the river so well, would have taken this magic watchman straight to his great heart. Stirred by an uneasy breeze, the fog finally lifts, and the towboat continues to plod its steady course. These scenes, repeated 100 times over, make up the pulse beat of the river. Here are the great industrial plants, drawn to the riverbanks by the forces of economy and the advantages of a navigable waterway. No mystery surrounds their flourishing success. They have unlimited water supply, proximity to raw materials, and excellent rail and river connections. When scrap is delivered to one of these plants, big cranes on the shore, equipped with electromagnets, do the job of unloading the barges. Discarded metal, which a month ago was an unsightly pile of debris in Memphis, is delivered today to a furnace in Wheeling, Portsmouth, or Weirton for some new purpose or use. And when this scrap has gone through intricate processing ashore, it may once again emerge upon the river in a new form, like the transformation from cocoon to butterfly, perhaps as one of the hundreds of automobiles which are carried from Cincinnati to Memphis, to New Orleans, to Houston. These carriers accommodate 600 cars and are a picturesque addition to river commerce. In Cincinnati, a large shipment of soap powder, typical of the many cargoes destined for river travel, is taken from freight cars and moved through the terminal to an elevator. When the elevator is full, the load makes its lumbering way down to the level of the covered cargo barges. Transferred from elevator to barge, it starts toward its river destination, and perhaps another rail shipment from there. Barges such as this, which carry soap powder and kindred products liable to weather damage, have a roof and are weather-tight. But this barge is the usual type for loading coal, coke, sulfur, and pipe. It is known as a hopper barge, and from a distance it looks like a toy. But close up, It is enormous. It ranges from 175 to 195 feet in length, 26 to 35 feet in width, and is about 10 feet deep. The usual type of barge met on the rivers today, it lends itself to adjustment for many uses. Hungry, cavernous, this barge can hold the contents of 30 railroad cars. Here is the same type of hopper barge being loaded with coke. Several coal and steel companies in the Pittsburgh area own hundreds of such barges, each with a capacity of from 800 to 1,000 tons. Unloading coal from a hopper barge is symbolic of the important part the rivers play in industry, for a tremendous amount of the electric power used by industrial plants requires coal. And coal is used by the steel industries to make coke, and by the steam plants throughout the country which supply heat for stores, offices, and public buildings. At Cavian Rock, Illinois, mine cars transport fluorspar direct from the mine to the barges, which perform a function similar to railroad cars, but have a capacity 20 times greater. But whether the barges carry fluorspar, coke, or gasoline, the river continues to play its starring role in the great drama of transportation. The hundreds of parts and products essential to a motor car's completion and servicing travel the waterways day in and day out, winter and summer. We probably don't think much about it as we drive into a service station to have the gas and oil in our cars checked. But down at Baton Rouge, Louisiana, an endless routine of activity keeps gasoline flowing, millions and millions of gallons of it every week. Along the course of the rivers, barge after barge, specially constructed for carrying liquid cargoes, is shoved in flotilla fashion both winter and summer. From the conventional flotilla arrangement, the integrated tow has been developed, which can be used in certain trade to effect easier pushing. But before oil reaches our motors, it must be piped from the fields. And so downstream along the Ohio and Mississippi from Pittsburgh, Weirton, Steubenville, Wheeling, and elsewhere, great barges carry their loads of pipe to Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Texas. Yes, Old Man River plays a big part in assembling that car. Material used in manufacturing the nozzle of the gas hose, the rubber for the tires, the steel for hubcaps and trim, the handles and the radiator were moved part of the way toward the assembly line by the river. Whether it's a broom or a bucket, a wash tub or a wheelbarrow, it rides the rivers from manufacturer to market, from factory to home. To the river goes the credit, and to the consumer, the benefit. It makes no difference whether industry locates at a seaport such as New Orleans, or at Houston where salt and river water mingle, or perhaps hundreds of miles inland near the grain regions of the Midwest where Minnesota wheat is loaded for export. The tonnage that passes from river to ocean and from ocean to river keeps hundreds of thousands of people at work and helps to supply 140 million day in and day out, 24 hours around the clock, in peace and in war, in rich years and in lean. And the rivers flow steadily on. Great water highways, which are a natural resource, improved by man and channeled to serve best the land and its people. To preserve, protect, and develop these rivers is a challenge we cannot fail to accept. America's waterways are a part of our heritage, for they help unite the nation, and a united nation is strong. And so out upon the restless waters are the boats, following their appointed ways today, tonight, and through all the tomorrows. Great towboats that give movement to the banks as they push their tows toward home. American boats going about their business on the broad and constant waters of America. To the men aboard these boats, the river is much more than a place of work. It is a state of mind. Their lives are steeped in its tradition, and being near it and on it is important to them. Their thoughts flow with the river, and their hearts ride its current as surely and as steadily as do the boats themselves. To the rivermen, the shore runs by the river, and the sudden sweep of each hill, the jutting outlines of each farm, the smoking stacks of each industrial plant, and even the unfolding bend just ahead is motion of the earth and not of the water. It is easy to understand their pride as they snub tarred ropes around the timberheads to bind together the busy barges. For in a larger sense, they are binding together the resources and the people of a great and favored land. A land rich in its navigable waterways, a system which defies wind and weather and smiles at distance. So that Houston is a part of Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is a part of St. Louis, and Pittsburgh is a part of New Orleans.